Let me try to create it and show you. So we are planning to create user-defined data type like student. I created it. If you see here, student class I created. In that I've created lot of non-static variable, and then we created a 3 different object and loaded it. Each object will have the student data type, student type. Student object will be having student ID, name, mail ID. So each object will have their own student ID, name, mail ID, percentage, school name. Now, in order to print it, we created a static method. While creating a static method, you have to send this particular data type. Like you need to receive the data. While calling the method, you have to send pass the object detail. This stu1, stu3, stu, all these object detail you need to pass. That we have to store it over here. Then only you will get access. For employee, I'll create. With that, you will get an idea about it. So let me create one new package here. NSE dot employee. Okay, I have created one new package. Inside that package, the first thing is I wanted to create an employee type. So employee type in the sense you have to create a class. Employee class. Employee class or employee data class, whatever you created, that's fine. That's the employee type. Okay, every class is basically a type similar to string. We have created a class called employee. Now, when I refer employee type, it should have employee ID, employee number basically. Let me then employee name, salary, company name. This data should be present. So I'm going to create a non-static variable. Empty ID, public string, emp name, public double emp salary, and then public string company name. Okay, that's what I wanted to initialize. Now, when I create, these are all non-static variable. So you can create a number of objects. I can create some 1,000 object and keep each employee details in one object. Okay, 1,000 employee details, I can keep it in memory. So right now I wanted to store 3 employee details. So 3 employee details at the same time I should be able to access it. For that, what I'm trying to do is I have created one more class which you have created as HRM portal. HRM portal or something you created. Okay, let me create it as employee the main method. So in this, it's an independent class, separate class. Here I have created 3 employee object. Employee object emp1 equal to new employee object, and then one more object I'll create employee emp2 equal to new employee object. So right now 3 object I'm trying to create. Employee 3, new variable name, new employee. So 3 employee object created. So right now what happens in the background is when you run this program, okay. When you run this program, let me try to go to this. Now, right now what will happen is emp1 will be pointing to some address. Inside that address, you will have memory for employee ID, which will be 0. If you see employee ID, it will be default values will be loaded. Integer default value is 0. Employee name, that will be null. Default value for string. What is the default value for double? That is emp salary, which will be
0.0.
0.0. And then company name. Right now the company name is string, so it will be like null. So this is first object. When you create first object, this is what going to happen. When I create a first object, this is what going to happen. Now I have created 2 more objects. All are independent. So there will be one more memory location will happen. L2. There is no connectivity between first object and second object. Remember that. Second object also you will have this record, independent record. And similarly, one more object we created that is pointed by emp3 variable name, and third location. So three location we have created right now, all are default values. If I want to access employee ID in the first object, then I have to use system.out.println here. emp, you need to know the address emp1 dot employee ID. That will give you the employee ID of first object, and emp2 dot employee ID give you the object of like the employee ID of second object. Right now, all are going to be empty, like a zero. It will be printing 0, 0. Okay. Now, if you let me put a breakpoint here and debug. Now you can see first object. This is the address. I have mentioned L1, L2, L3. That is something like this address. All as default values. Second object, third object. You can see all are coming from a first one is 08 ending with 08 address. Second one is having 75. Third one is having the 31. Okay. And going to the first address and getting the employee ID, going to the second address, getting the employee. It's an employee type. In the beginning, when we started with Java, we used lots of data type here, like byte, short, int, declaration. You can see int, long, float, double, string. Also, we have used something like string class we have used, and then we started using array. Now, what we have declared is employee type. Employee type. Okay, and in the last class we have seen student data type. Student type. Okay, now let me close all of the thing. In the first object, I want to load with this record 1001 jack 4500 nsc. So for that, what I can do is I know the address emp1 dot empid equal to 1001, and then emp1 dot emp name equal to jack, then emp1 dot emp salary equal to 4500. Just understand it carefully over here. We are just modifying the detail in first object only. Remaining object will have a default values. Company name I am changing it to NSC. Right now this is one object. Okay. Let me put a breakpoint and then try to debug it again. So three independent objects we are creating, all will have default values. Okay, now in the first object only I'm modifying. You can see emp1 will have this record. Okay, every object as will have its own state and behavior. These are all state. Every object will have their own copy of employee name, employee ID, company name. And second object, you can see it has default values. Okay. Now I'm trying to use the employee ID from which first one employee ID I'm printing. From which object I'm printing? First object or second object or third object? First one. So this is going to be straightforward. And the second employee object is having a 0, so it just printed 0. So this is clear for you, first of all, this part. Now, yes. After that, what we did is we created a method here. So this class is for employee. This class will have employee state, employee attributes, and methods for employee, like calculate salary method. Okay, and then methods for allocating the projects. For all other methods will be there. So I ask you to create a method called public static method. I ask you to create, and the method name, like return type, will be void. Method name print employee details. That is what I ask you to create. Okay, print employee details. Print employee detail. Okay, it's a static method. How will you call the static method?
Using class name.
Yeah, so I can use the class name and call it. So basically, without object also I can call the static method. You can see here employee dot print employee details. I can call it. This method can be called without object also. These are all not required for calling the method. But what I want is I can do it. When I run it, it will call this method. Whatever I write inside that gets executed. Now without object you can call. But what about this non-static variable? when this will be loaded in memory, these non-static variable.
After creating object.
Yeah, we need minimum one object, right? So in order to access all these things, so it's you cannot directly call all these things here. These and all you cannot call it. If you call it, will throw error. If you see here, system.out.println emp id I'll give. Now you can see it will throw error. That is what happening in your case. Okay, the static method nowhere related with the non-static variable. In order to call this method, you need to create an object. About that. Now you cannot access non-static variable inside static method. Now coming back to our case. Okay, I wanted to create a method, print employee details. Now, what employee details? For example, let's assume that I want to print the employee ID. I want to print the employee ID. So I'll get the employee ID here. Print ID I'll keep. Parameter. While calling the method, I'll pass an integer. That integer I'll try to print ID. Okay. Now, see here, whenever I call this method, employee dot print employee detail, it will ask for the integer. I can pass any integer. Let me pass the integer as 10002. Some random integer I'm passing. The breakpoint here. Debug the code. So 3 objects I'm creating. Each object will have their own copy of employee ID, name, salary. I'm modifying the name, salary detail for only first object. Second object, third object are going to have default values. Now printing the employee ID and then calling the method. Let me do step into. It will take you inside the method. Right now, this is going to be simple. We have created methods like this, which accepts a double value, string value, all these things we have seen. We are passing an integer. It will print the integer. That's it, right? So this method is clear for you, first of all. Now, here I want to print the employee details. Employee details like employee ID, name, salary, company name I wanted to print. Got it? First of all, to print that, you need the employee details here. You need the employee details here. While calling the method, you have to send the employee details. Now, if it is a number, you can give int here. The data type will be of integer if it is a number. Okay. Now, if I pass anything in double quotes, what will be the data type? If I pass anything in double
String.
quotes, it will be string. Okay, string name. And when I try to print that, whatever the detail I'm passing it in double quotes, it get printed. These are all predefined and non-predefined data type, which we will be familiar with. Now, instead of sending the ID, name, salary one by one, what I'm planning to do is I'm going to send the employee object detail. EMP1. EMP1 I'm trying to send. EMP1 is nothing but the employee object. You can see here. I'm trying to send this address. It's a type of employee. It's an employee type. Now what we need to do is this method we have to update. It is not you cannot store EMP1 in a string. Remember that EMP1 is of employee type. Here you need to create the data type. You have to accept the data type. So what object we are sending it here? It's an object of what type?
Employee.
It's an object of employee type. So you have to declare one employee type here. Employee. So anything can be an argument. Any data type can be mentioned here. Any class details you can mention. You can mention employee. You can mention student. You can mention like Chrome driver, which deals with Chrome browser. Chrome driver object I need to send. Firefox driver I'll be sending argument. So which means I have to send the object of Firefox driver. Now if you see here, just listen carefully. We are calling the method. While calling the method, I am passing EMP1. Our first object is what I'm sending. First object means this detail. This detail will be passed. Okay. Now, here, what is the variable name we are giving? Employee type. And what is the variable name? You can give any variable name. So right now, what is the variable name I've given us in the argument? So what is the variable name I've mentioned here? For example, here the variable name is EMP1, EMP2, EMP3. That is going to have some address detail. Now I'm trying to send the address here. Here we are sending the object detail. Okay, this part is nothing but passed by reference. We are passing the reference detail. That's it. We are not holding any EMP1 is not holding any value. If you print EMP1, if I try to print EMP1, it will basically give you the address detail. You can see when I run the TMP1, it will give you the address detail. It will give you the address detail. What I'm trying to send is I'm sending some address. That's nothing but pass by reference. Now that address under which variable we are storing it temporarily. Here I'm going to give it as yeah. Now I was doing E. You can give any variable name, EMP, E, whatever it is, you can give the variable name. Now let me print EMP here. So listen carefully. Put a breakpoint. Let me put a breakpoint, debug it and show you. So 3 object I'm creating. All are independent object. You can see the address. First object is ending with 08. All are default values. Second object is ending with 75. Third object is ending with 31. And in first object, I'm trying to store employee ID, salary, company name. I'm changing it in first object. And then printing the first object address. And then printing the first object employee ID, second object employee ID, and then calling this method. While calling the method, which object we are sending? EMP1, the first
EMP1.
object I am sending. Let me go inside this. Now you see EMP will also start pointing to the same object. Right now, during this EMP and EMP will also point to the same address. Now inside this address, what are the details we have? Right now I'm printing the address. Inside this address, what are the details we have? Inside the employee object, what are the details we will be having?
Same as for EMP1.
Yeah. So yeah, what are the non-static variable we'll be having inside the object, employee object? See, we create an object here, right? Inside that object, what are the details we have regarding that employee? What are the details we have? That's employee ID, employee name, employee salary, company name. All are present in the employee object. Is that clear for you? Now EMP will be pointing to one object, that is a object of employee type. So inside that, you have to access employee ID. You have to pass the argument, and then emp.employee ID is what you need to access. emp.employee name. Which employee name will be printed? What salary will be printed? That depends on the argument you pass while calling the method. emp.employee salary. System.out.println emp.company. Okay. And then I'll just put some line over here. Understood? Listen carefully. I'll call this method 3 times. Employee dot print employee details. See what is the argument it's asking for. Now print employee details. In the previous scenarios and all, it was asking for integer. We passed integer. String we passed in double quotes. Now it is asking for employee type. You can see the bracket. That's the argument. Employee type it is asking. Employee type is nothing but object you need to pass. Employee object. Already we have an object like EMP1, EMP2, EMP3. Those details you can pass it here. Based on the details you pass, the method will get executed right now. Employee.print employee details EMP3. Let me try to put a breakpoint here and run it. Now let me try to do this. See, first method I'm calling. While calling the first method, which object we are sending? We are sending the first object. Now this method will run based on the first object. What is there in the first object? Those details will be printed. In first object, we are loading with value. So that value will be printed. You can see EMP will be first object detail. Now, once this is done, the method is gone. Now, second time I'm calling, which object I'm sending? The second object I'm sending. In second object, all of default values. You can see second object which we are sending. Okay, remember that employee ID, employee name, and all, you cannot remember the value. You have to understand using which object we are calling the employee ID. Right now, this employee ID is called based on the second object. Okay. Now, based on that, output will be printed. Now, third time I'm calling the method. On the third time, I'm passing emp3. So, third object detail is going to come over here. In third object also, we have the default values that will be printed. Okay. So, you cannot access the emp ID directly, which is not possible. Okay. In order to call the static method, you have to use the class name. While using the class name and call it, you have to pass the object detail, which object you want. Any variable name you can give. In your case, what you need to do is you have to give employee data. That's the class name you have declared. Employee data you need to give. In your case, employee data, any variable name you can give. Then you will be able to access employee ID. Check accessing employee ID and see. Got it? So thing is, anything can be an argument. Not only, it's not going to only deal with integer, double, string and all. You can give any class detail as an argument. In Selenium, you see lots of class like this. Okay, this is a class of employee type. And in the last class, I created it for student type. You can see I'm passing the student object detail. Okay. Going further, you will be getting a clear idea. We'll convert this to non-static, then it will be much more clear. See, this is clear for everyone, this particular part, creating an object and storing. Everyone understand, right? All are going to have independent copy. Employee first object will have one copy of employee details, employee ID, name, salary, company name. Second object will have its own copy, employee ID, name, salary, company name. Third object will have its own copy. All will have in their own copy. That is nothing but an instance of a class. Each object is nothing but an instance of a class. Object itself is nothing but an instance of a class. By just creating this as a template, we will be able to process with different employee details. Done with this? Clear for you till this? Okay. Now, let's understand it carefully. With today's topic, this is something like classes and object. You need to create 2, 3, 4, like at least 2, 3 you need to create like different class. Just you have to register in your mind that any class can be sent as a parameter. When you see any class as a parameter, for example, while calling the method employee dot print employee details, while calling it, you have to understand. You can see it is asking for the argument of some class. So don't get confused, and always don't pass string. That is what you need to break right now. Those who are new to Java, always it's not going to be a string. Or sometimes what you'll do is you'll type employee here. That is not going to make any change here. We cannot pass a class as an argument. What you need to do is, if it is asking for employee type, you need to create an object for that particular class. And then you have to send that object reference. Okay, that is the thing. Now, going further, already I've shared you few slides. Let me open the slide quickly. The statement, like each and every oops concept statement, you have to justify. If you are able to justify that, then it will be easy for you to move on. See, a class is nothing but a template or blueprint. Right now, you see the class, it's just a template. Okay, with this template, what we do is we'll create an object and we'll make use of this template. That is what we will be doing. And the object is an instance of a class. Okay, right now, if you notice it properly, I'm loading first employee detail. If I want to load a second employee detail, I'll do this emp2 dot. Until this, I'll try to update it on commit. I'll do. employee type is what I created right now. Commit and push. Commit, we'll update the local repo. Push, we'll try to push it to the repository. Okay. Right now I wanted to do one more thing. I wanted to add one more employee details, like load the employee 2 details. Employee 2 details I load with this record 1002 Peter 1002 emp2 dot employee name. Let me load with Peter. Listen carefully. And emp3 dot emp2 dot salary. I load with 5000. And then emp2 dot company name. Company name. I'm going to now understand this. When you get a requirement, like you want one employee type, you need to create. So you will get to know employee ID, name, salary. Now what happened in this case is you can see first object is having 1001 and the name of the employee I have given it as Jack. Salary depends to that employee, so it will be 4000. What about company name for first employee? So this is a class created for one particular company only. So for in that company, we are creating maintain the employee detail. Okay, it's basically for one company. Now salary will be dependent employee. What about company? For all the employee, company name is going to be same, right? Because we create an employee type for in one company only. We will not be able to merge multiple company into it. Okay, if you are collecting multiple company of company employee details, then you have to keep it separately. Now if you see, assume that this is only for NSC and then for that company only we are collecting or going to generate a template for employee. Now if you see the company name NSC is there, which is going to be allocated in each object. In each and every object NSC will be allocated, but we know that company name is going to be constant. Company name, company address, those things, whatever the record you feel it's going to be constant. You can see here. Now what will happen? The code will work as usual. When I run it, we are going to get the output as usual. There is no change in the code. But how many times company name is getting loaded in memory? How many objects we are creating?
3 times.
Yeah, so 3 objects we are creating. So 3 times company name will be loaded. Here 3 character will be loaded. Here 3 character will be loaded. Here also, if I give emp3 dot company name NSC, 3 character will be loaded. Same company name only, but it will be loading in for each object. Understood? How can we reduce that? I don't want to load it in each object. I wanted to load it only once in the memory. So what we can do in that case?
A static variable.
Yeah, so if you feel that something is going to be common for all the object, if you feel something is going to be common for all the object, you can load it in the static memory. In static memory, I can load the company name. Okay, so what I need to, I will be loading it in the static memory, the company name. So once I load it, how can you access that static variable?
Using class name.
That is what we will be trying to do. If you feel something is going to be constant for all the objects, then you can make it a static. No point in loading in each and every object. Okay. Now, wherever we are calling, for example, listen carefully, wherever we are calling the company name, I have to change it to static. I can remove this from here. I can remove this from here. In the beginning, I can set the employee dot company name equal to the string only NSC. Only once I can load it and keep one copy will be maintained in memory company name. And here, how to call the company name? It's not related to object. It will be based on the static memory. So employee dot last name dot company. Okay. So even if you keep it as non-static, it will work. It will not throw any error or not. But thing is, it will be loading in memory for each object. That is the got it. So one thing what you need to do understand here is if you feel that it is going to be constant for all the object, then you can load it as static. That's how we have to distinguish between static and non-static in real time. Got an idea? Here for student, try to create this quickly. This employee type, create it first of all, employee type, and this detail I'll push it to GitHub. You can access the code which I sent it, copy paste it. Employee type we have created. Employee type deals with employee ID, name, salary, and then company name. This is your template. What we created here is a template, and that template we are making use of by creating the objects. Just go to the GitHub link. This is the GitHub link. Okay, if you created the, if you are planning to work with student, not an issue. In student, what are the things going to be constant for all the student detail? Which will be constant for all the students?
School name.
Yeah, school name. That you can make it a static. So school name is going to be common for all the students, all the objects. So you can make it a static, and wherever I mentioned that school name, I can call using the class name variable name. And here also it will give you warning. So which means why are you accessing using the variable? So you can access by using the class name. So anywhere you can load it. Once you load it, it will be available in memory. You can make it a static, and wherever you are referring it, just try to, even though you do emp1 dot company name, it will try to update in the static memory only, in this section only. All of you clear with this? First of all, a non-static variable, how, like, the thing is, we will come to know how to call the non-static variable, how to call the static variable, but in real time you have to realize how it is useful, how non-static is going to be useful when it comes to the real-time application. So without object, it is not at all possible, like maintaining 3 different employee details at a time, or 100 employee details at a time, 1000 employee details. Based on your RAM capacity, you can create n number of employee details in your memory. We have 8 GB RAM, that is more than enough. You can create a lot of employee objects. Suppose you have some 10,000 employee objects also, it will be able to maintain. But if it exceeds your RAM capacity and all, it will slow down the machine. That's why we host it in the server machines. Okay. Now all of you got an idea about this. Now you see object as state and behavior. State is nothing but the employee ID, name, salary. Those are all state. So each object will have their own copy of employee ID, name, and salary. That is clear for you? That is object as its own state. Is that clear? State is nothing but the non-static variable. We refer it as state or attribute. Is that clear for you? Okay. Now coming to the next thing. Okay, let me comment it for the time being. This method I'll comment it. Now you can understand the importance of non-static method. Public void. Let me create them. Let me comment this code also. These 3 code I'll comment it. I commented the static method, and I here also I removed that. I commented it. Okay. Let me go over here. I'll create a method. Print employee detail. Okay. Static or non-static method. Static or non-static method. This one. How will you call this method? How can we call this method?
Non-static. We can call it through object.
Through object. Okay, we have 3 objects. You can call this method using any object. That is the concept here. Okay. Now in non-static method, you can access employee ID directly. restriction. You can directly access it. Employee name, you can access it directly. Whereas in static, it was not allowing. That's why we are passing an argument. For non-static, you can see it is allowing to call the variable directly. Now you have to understand few more things over here. Company name, no need to worry, it's a static. Always you prefer the class name and call it company name. So don't get confused. Company name is static, but employee ID, name, salary, and all, it will be printing automatically. So which employee ID, name, salary will be printed? Company name, I know I registering it as NSE, it's going to print NSE. Which employee ID, name, salary will be printed? That is decided but based on which employee ID, which name, which salary will be printed, how it is going to be decided. Yeah, it will be depends on the object. If you see here, let me do one thing. I'm going to call the non-static method. To call the non-static method, I can use any reference. I can use EMP1, EMP2, EMP3. So the object is there. Let me call the method using the second object, print employee details. Now listen carefully. Three object I'm creating, loading with the value. All the values are loaded. Now this non-static method is called using which object? Second object, right? EMP2. Now the output will be based on that particular object. Got it? This is nothing but the behavior of that behavior basically. Object as state and behavior. If you see EMP2 will be having its own state, that is variable, and also behavior. Okay. So EMP1 dot print employee details will take care of first employee details. So which will be efficient, like non-static or static in this case, which is easy for us to refer if we wanted to print an employee details.
Non-static method.
Yeah, non-static is actually preferable, okay, because it's going to deal with the object we are going to call. So if I want to run for first employee, then I'll be using first object and call it. That's it. It will try to run it for that particular employee. If I want to run it for second employee, then I can refer that and call the non-static method. So always we will be preferring these kind of methods only. Okay, so let me show some more real-time examples. So this is something you have to register in your mind about object. You can see first object I'm using to call the method. Now this method output will be based on first object. Okay, next, second object I'm using. So the output will be based on second object. Third object, the output will be based on third object. Company name, it's going to come from the static memory. So no, not an issue. Now what happens with Selenium is, in Selenium, you can see we will try to launch the browser in Selenium. Selenium launch browser, I'll show you some script you can see. The new Chrome driver we will create. When you create an object, it will try to do some operation, like it will launch the browser. And that browser, we have to store it somewhere. It's an object. That object I need to store. We will be storing it in some variable called driver. Using that driver, emp1.print employee details means it will run based on the first employee. So driver.udo, it will run on this particular browser, first browser. If I give driver2 equal to new Chrome driver, two browser will be launched. If I use driver, it will be using this browser. If I use driver2, it will use the second browser. So everything going forward will be depends on the object. Okay. So this part is what we have discussed, object creation. And we are storing it in Chrome driver itself. That's what we have done. That we will see it practically today by launching the browser. So till this it's clear for you. Okay. And same thing can be applicable for student class also. This it's fine. Just creating 3 objects and handling it. So these 3 definitions or these 3 concepts are important. Template or blueprint object is an instance of a class. Object has state and behavior in the sense, if you use emp1 and those at some variable call, that is going to be the state. And using that first object, if you call a method, if that method does some operation, that's a behavior. All the methods we refer it as behavior. And this non-static variable and the non-static method will be depends on that object which you refer. That's why object will be holding the state and behavior. And that is the reason why we call non-static method by using the object. Because without object, if you call this method, it's an ambiguity. These will not have any data. This will be loaded in memory only when you create an object. That's why non-static method will be called using the object. Okay. All will be something like interlocked concept. So clear with this? See, we created a going further, anything, whatever we did it for string, you can do it over here for class. We created a string array, right? In string array, each index point contains a string. In integer array, each index point contains an integer. For this also, we can create an array. Employee array you can create. Each index point will have employee object. Okay. So whatever you did for a string, you can repeat it for this employee. Okay. So clear with this? How to create an employee array? Let's try it. If you have employee class, try to create an array for employee. If you have student class, try to create an array for student. Just check it how to create student array. With that, we'll get into some Selenium concepts. We'll start with Selenium. Parallelly, we'll be working on hooks concept. Yeah, that's correct. Employee array. Okay. So you can create you can give the variable name as employees. That's an employee array. Okay. So all these are possible. Going further, employee array you can create. It's going to it will contain a collection of employee. Right now, while creating an array detail, you have to fix the size. You have to give the size. Let me keep it as 3. So which means I can store the employee detail. So each index point contains in this each index point contains employee object only. Okay, you cannot store a string, not a string array. It's an employee. So emp1 I can put employees of 1. I'm going to store emp2. All these are going to be something which from this point it will be turned either into development stage or it will be turned into an automation environment from this point. But till this point, if you have some clarity, we can easily get into Selenium. Selenium is going to deal with some inbuilt code only. Selenium team given that code. We will try to configure it and try to launch that. Like non-static methods will be there. To call non-static methods, we'll create an object. Static methods will be there. To call that, we'll call using the class name. You should know where the class name available, how to set up the class, those things only. It's an employee array. Okay, like whatever you did it for string, you can do it for the employee also. Okay. Now, in order to access, like right now, this employee 0 will also point to the same object. Employee 0 will be pointing to this object. Employees 1 will be pointing to this object. Index point 2 will be pointing to this object. Either you can use, in order to access the 1002, I can use emp2, or I can use employees of 1 dot emp2. That is a concept. Just understand how to create an employee array. That's enough. So all of you got an idea about this static and non-static. Done. See, whatever we have seen about classes and object, we'll see practically how it is used in Selenium. Okay, just we'll try to launch the browser. Let's create a new project and do it. So if you have any doubts with this, let me know. Otherwise, we'll move to Selenium. Parallelly, we'll work on the whoops concept. Right now, one object should be clear. If you go for inheritance, you have to understand connection between two classes. If you create an object for child, first memory will be allocated for parent, then it will be coming for child. Okay, by creating one object, a memory will be allocated for parent as well as child. That's your inheritance concept. If parent is having some 10 non-static variable, child is having some 10 non-static variable. If you create an object for child, 20 non-static variable will be loaded in one object. That is your inheritance. We'll see about that. Okay. So in Selenium, there is a class called Chrome driver. There is a class called Chrome driver. Okay. There's a class called Chrome driver. And inside this class, lots of non-static methods are there. Assume that there are lots of non-static methods inside this class. And those methods, for example, methods like get title. This method will give you the title, returns title. Okay, something like public string get title. Okay, it will give you the title of the page, front page. Okay. And there will be a method public void get. It will ask for string. They are all non-static methods. How will you call all these non-static methods inside the class Chrome driver? So what we need to do in that case?
Create object.
We have to create an object for Chrome driver class. Okay, we have discussed about one class. Let's do that same way. You guys can create a new project. Let me create a new project. You guys also create a new project, file new, and you can go for other, choose Java project, create a Java project. We'll set up the project. Okay. You can keep the project name as Selenium concept. Selenium. File new Java project or file new other Java project. Keep the project name as Selenium concept and then click on finish. In the same workspace, it will create the project. Let me click on finish. After creating a project, if it is asking for any details like module creation, you can ignore it. That's not required. So after creating the project, we'll create a package. Let me create one new package here. com dot nsc dot selenium concept. I'll create selenium basic. You can create selenium basic. Now inside that, create a new class. The class name you can keep it as a launch browser. Yes, we are going to see launch browser activity. Launch browser demo. You can keep the class name. And with main method, you can keep it. Create it. Now here, create object for Chrome driver. It's a class called Chrome driver. So Chrome driver class in the sense C should be in uppercase, driver D should be in uppercase. Try creating an object for Chrome driver. Then creating an object for Chrome driver. You can create it as a Chrome driver, something like this itself. Okay, we have discussed about only one class. So you need to do something like this. Some variable name you can keep it, because we did not understand what is Webdriver and all. That's an interface. We did not discuss about that. Okay. So something like this, we need to create any variable name you can give. So driver is something which is frequently used. Okay. You can give it as driver, the variable name. This is how an object will be created, like student class, employee class. Similarly, Chrome driver is there, which will deal with the Chrome browser. Okay. Now, let me show you parallelly about with this class. See, Chrome driver, when I create, it will start throwing the error. You can see it starts throwing the error. Listen here. Okay, right now it is like these Chrome driver are already created. Selenium team already created and then given to us. We have to use that Chrome driver class for doing the operation. Now to get this Chrome driver and all, it's not given by the Java team. Standard libraries. For example, if I try to create an object for string, it will accept. It will accept for creating the object for string. A equal to new string, that is going to be accepted. It's already available class in Java. Okay, and there is a class called scanner. Scanner, which comes from a java.util. You have to import the util. I can create an object for scanner class. This is a class which helps us in reading a data from the console, reading a data instead of. Similarly, what I'm trying to do is I'm creating an object for Chrome driver. And that is not going to be given by the Java team, the third party team, Selenium, open source environment. Selenium team is giving you the component to work with. The Selenium related classes. It's open source only. Webdriver is what we are trying to discuss here. Selenium Webdriver. Now under the downloads, selenium.dev under downloads, they will give you the jar. I'll tell you the jar, how to get it. So before that, quickly we'll understand the input option. Let me comment it for the timing. The employee class object we are creating. Both the employee class object, while creating the object, this employee class comes under com.nsc.employee. This employee test is also under the same package. So we were able to access it directly. Now in student package, I'll create an object of employee. In student package, I'll create an object for employee. You can see while creating an object for employee, if I try to write employee equal to new employee, it will throw error. Okay. The reason why it is throwing error is we have to tell from which package this employee class is coming. The hover on it, it will give you the option import com.nsc.employee. So you can see import will be added. Import. So this employee class is coming from, right now I'm in com.nsc.student. This employee class is coming from com.nsc.employee. This is we created. So we are able to import it directly. Now Chrome driver we have to check whether we are getting an import option for Chrome driver. Are we getting any import option for Chrome driver? It's asking to create a class. We should not create any class. Okay. If it is given by Selenium team, if it is given by Java team, it will be available under these jars. But it's a third-party library which we have to download and configure. Okay, let's do that right now. Usage of class as an object in Selenium. Now you can see here, just we'll try to set, in order to set this, to get Selenium related code, download Selenium and configure to project. That you need to do. For that, what you need to do is, Selenium is the team which is giving. Official site is selenium.dev. Under the downloads, you can see latest stable version 4.1.2. If you click on it, it will download the jar. I'll ping you the link. If you already have a jar, you can use it. Just click on it, it will download the jar. Let me keep it in some folder. Let me copy it and keep it in B drive software. I'll keep it here. Selenium jar. Now listen carefully. To add the jar, Chrome driver is going to be present inside jar. Jar is something which will have collection of packages. If you want to share some 10-20 packages, you can create a jar and share it. Easily you can create a jar with Eclipse or Maven project. And inside the package, classes will be there. Inside that only we are trying to access the Chrome driver. All these are present in this jar. We can add this jar to the project. Every project you need to configure. We are creating a Java project. Only inbuilt libraries will be shown. Java libraries will be available. All other libraries we need to add. To add it, you have to right click on the current project. Under Selenium concept project, right click on it, build path, configure build path, and then library section. Just go to this. What are the details you see inside this build path, configure build path? Under libraries, do you see module path and class path, or only just it's not showing any path? Just check it in your machine. Okay, with the JDK latest versions and all, you will be getting both module path and class path. You can add it under the class path. Choose the class path. Like after coming to the build path libraries, build path, configure build path libraries, choose the class path, add external jar. Jar is present in D drive, so you can do add external jar. I'll go to D drive, choose the jar, open. Let me repeat it. Apply and close you need to give. Let me repeat it. This is the project where I need the access for this class Chrome driver. For that, I need to add the jar. So I'll right click on this project, Selenium concept, and then build the path, configure build path. Under library section, you need to add all the jars required for Selenium. Only one jar is enough. Choose the class path, add external jar, choose the jar which you wanted to add, click on open, apply and close. Now you see your project will be able to see the reference libraries. Under that, you can see Selenium Server 4.1.2. That's the latest version. We're able to add it. You guys can practice it.
I'm not getting that option class path.
Okay, what are the options you are getting? Nothing is there, right? Just JRE is present, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, directly you can give add external jar. Okay, JDK 8 and all, you will be able to see only JRE library, no distinguish between module and class path. You can add external jar and then map the jar and click on apply and close. After that, you should be able to see the import option. Spelling should be correct. Chrome driver C and D should be in uppercase. Class name should be upper camel case. Method name should be lower camel case. So that you have to follow that. If you are given the class name properly, you should be getting the import option. So see the import option, import it. Okay, now. Okay, so for example, you see here this Chrome driver comes from org.openq.selenium.chrome. So it's already available code only. It's in open source only. You can get the Git link for the Selenium WebDriver. And this particular class is coming from this package org.openq.selenium.chrome. This package is going to be present inside this jar. If you just listen, no need to check it. If I expand this jar, you see lots of package server, Selenium server. If I expand, I can see lots of package. In that, I'll be able to see org.openq.selenium. Like the same way I showed you the string, we can check this also. org.openq.selenium.chrome. That's a package. Inside that, I'll be able to see Chrome driver. Got it? So Chrome driver class is there. Now we created an object. So we will be able to call the methods. You can see there will be lots of driver dot non-static method. Driver dot, there's a method called get. It will ask for string URL. Okay. You can see two things you need to know. One is the argument, return type. What is the argument here? What data type is asked as an argument? Forget. The argument is string. Okay. And return type void, which means you can't store it anywhere. So now I have to pass the URL as a string. Now there is a method called quit. This method will close the browser. Okay. And there will be a method called find element. You can see it is asking for byte type. In the argument, it's asking for by, something like similar to employee class we discussed, right? We created an employee object and sent. Now we will be creating a by object, or we will call some static method. That method will return a by object. That is what we will be discussing going further. And then you can see methods like get title. This will try to give you the title of the page. No argument, only it will return some string. Get current URL. It will give you the current URL. So this method is going to be discussed further. With that, you will be able to do the automation. Got some idea about this? Okay. Now just run this code. When you run it, it should be launching the browser. But right now, if you run, it will be throwing the error. Are you getting this error? Something like this: illegal state exception. The path to the driver executable must be set by webdriver.chrome.driver. Are you getting this error? Illegal state exception. This will try to launch the Chrome browser. Okay. Let me quickly give you an introduction to Selenium. Selenium is basically a suite of tools. It consists of 4 different tools. Okay, it can automate only web application. It can automate only web application. Selenium consists of 4 different tools. One is Selenium Id, Selenium RC, Selenium Webdriver. The concept what we are discussing right now is Webdriver. And then Selenium Grid. Selenium consists of 4 different components. Okay. If you see the official site of Selenium, just a quick introduction to Selenium. If I show you the official site, selenium.dev is the official site of Selenium. In that site, you can see they have described about Selenium WebDriver, ID, and Grid. And RC is not available here. You can see RC is not going to be available here. Now, the reason why RC is not available is what you need to understand. And you have to understand the architecture of WebDriver. It's a simple step only. First, Selenium ID. ID stands for Integrated Development Environment. The Eclipse we are using. Eclipse is an ID which helps us in writing Python code, Scala, or Java code also. You can Java and Python code also you can write with Eclipse. So it's just an ID which helps us in managing your programming. Okay. So a Selenium ID is there, which is going to give you a record and playback feature, which we will discuss it later on. So this will give you a simple record and playback feature. In order to work with ID, no need of programming knowledge. No need of programming knowledge required. It will give you a record and playback feature. If you know how to write a manual testing and how to use the browser, if you know, you can use this record and playback feature. Okay. Supported browser supports Chrome, Firefox, Edge. Right now it's supported with Edge also. Suppose if Selenium ID you want to use it for Safari browser or Internet Explorer or any other browser, it may not support. Okay, it comes as a plugin. You have to just add the plugin and use it. To work on this, we cannot write a stable code. It is used only for simple scripting. for exploratory testing, the experience-based testing concept only during that time. Without any test case document, you will be doing a testing. At that time, you can use Selenium ID. It's going to give you a record and playback feature, which can be learned in just 30 minutes. It will take if you want to learn Selenium ID. Okay, let me give that idea tomorrow. One more component called Selenium RC. This is removed from the market. No one is actually using this. In order to use this, we have to downgrade the Selenium version. It is removed from the market. In order to work with Selenium RC, programming language is required. Knowledge is required in order to work with Selenium RC. And language, like the major advantage why Selenium is widely used is, I'll tell you. All these things I'll be explaining. No need to worry about. Right now we are discussing about classes and object. So that we will discuss. Once that is done completely, when we'll start with this our ID also. Next class I'll tell you about that ID. Right now we'll understand how to launch the browser and basic methods like navigating to the URL, getting the title. With that we'll wind up the session. In order to work with Selenium RC, if you know Java, C#, Python, there's something called robot framework there, and then like JavaScript. If you know any one of this language, you can work with Selenium RC. Even PHP poll will also be supported in this. Now, the same thing will be applicable whatever I explained it here. The same thing will be applicable for Webdriver also. Whatever I explained it for RC, the same thing will be applicable for Webdriver also. But what is the difference? Why they have removed RC and moved to Webdriver? Okay. So that is because of architecture. You need to understand the architecture of Selenium RC and also architecture of Webdriver. If you understand the architecture of Webdriver, you can easily launch the browser. Now with Selenium RC, assume that we are working with RC. In order to work with RC, we will be writing the source code. Now the source code will be based on Java. We are working on Java, so source code we have to write using the Java. This is your source code. Something like this we'll be writing. Java Selenium RC. That is the source code. Once you write the code, all these are going to be working on browser. You can see the official site clearly tells you with Selenium, you can automate only browsers, web application. You cannot automate Notepad, Windows application and all. Just so make it clear. Now, source code Java plus Selenium RC. Now, when you write the source code, it will not directly connect to the browser. In order to connect to the browser, there will be a server. There is a server called RC server, okay, which is nothing but remote control server. RC stands for remote control. That server we have to turn on and turn off, either manually or through the code we have to turn off. Whatever the code we write, we have to send it to the server. That server will convert that into a browser understandable code, basically something called JavaScript. We are using Java Selenium RC. We will send it to server. Server will be converting that to JavaScript and send it to the browser. That's how the architecture going to work. Every time you can use Java, C#, Python, whatever it is, it will be sent to the server. Server will take some time to convert that into browser understandable code. Then it will send it to the browser. The response will be coming back to the server, and then you will be getting the response in the console. Console in the sense this section. Okay, from the server only you will be getting. If server is not working properly, or if the server is getting crashed, your output will be blocked. Okay, the output will be wrong in that case. Now everything will be depend on this RC server. What they achieved in Webdriver is there is no concept of server Webdriver. So they were able to do the automation in better way when it comes to Webdriver. Selenium Webdriver. No concept of server in between. No concept of server in between. What they did is they able to achieve the browser configuration directly. We're able to automate the browser directly with the help of driver. For example, in order to connect mouse in your laptop, if you want to connect mouse, you need a driver. Like in order to connect drive, the system should be, the OS operating system should be updated with the driver to read the pen drive. Otherwise, your pen drive will not be, operating system will not be able to read the pen drive. And if you know driver is available. Similarly, if you want to connect keyboard or mouse, driver should be available in the operating system. If it is not available, this feature will not work. Connecting the hardware and software, some drivers will be available. Okay. Now, the same concept only they use. For example, right now we will have Chrome browser 99. Tomorrow it gets updated to 900. Or if I want to connect to Firefox, particular version of Firefox or Edge browser, for everything they will supply the driver. Right now, driver is supplied by the browser team itself. So we have to configure the driver. Did we configure anything called driver here? We have browser. We have written the source code. Did we configure anything called driver? No. So we did not download and configure anything called driver. If the driver is not configured, you will be getting this error. Okay, we have to configure the driver. That is this error. Let me tell you how to configure it. Okay, so right now, because of this major change in the architecture, they don't want to use RC. No one is using RC right now. Completely, it is skipped. And you don't want to learn RC to learn WebDriver. All are independent, so you can directly work on WebDriver. So the entire team wants to learn the WebDriver only. That we will concentrate on WebDriver. A grid is something for doing a parallel running, or if you want to run it in multiple machines without moving the code, then we can use the grid concept. In grid also, we will be working with the WebDriver only. You can see if you want to run it in several machines, okay, or in several platforms, to run in multiple machines, different platforms, multiple platforms, basically platforms, browsers. Okay. Then we use grid concept. Okay, it's very simple. Grid concept can be learned in 15 minutes. Basically, it has a concept of hub and node. In hub machine, one hub machine will be there. Lots of node machine will be there. For example, I can make my machine as a hub where I have the code, and I can make your machine as a node. You, from the hub machine, I'll be controlling the browser in your machines. Okay, so that is going to be a grid concept. What code is going to run in that grid concept is going to be WebDriver script only. So WebDriver is going to be the major. So this is a simple introduction to Selenium. We have to work on each and every component properly, and RC is not required. ID is required. ID is used for while doing a manual testing. You can record it and use. And from the ID, you can convert to WebDriver script also. It's available with the latest version of ID. But I want to connect to database. I want to connect with Excel. All these things, we need programming help. That we'll be using Java. So WebDriver is what is going to be used for stable automation regression. And grid is going to be used at the end once you complete the WebDriver. Right now, I'll tell you how to configure the driver. Just try that. To configure the driver, we have different options. Right now, we will be getting this error, illegal state exception. The path to the driver executable must be checked by the WebDriver. I hope everyone will be getting that error. Okay. This error, everyone will be getting this error. Okay. To fix it, to fix the driver error, you can see the architecture itself is clearly that you need the driver. Without driver, you cannot launch the browser. Selenium WebDriver architecture, you can see we have to write the script. It's loading. We have to write the script and we have to send it to the driver. Driver, what it will do is it will try to send it to the browser. Got it? Now we have to configure the driver. You can see in the error message itself, there will be a message. The path to the driver must be set by the webdriver.chrome.driver. That is the key. Using this key, we can set the driver. You can copy the key. Key is case sensitive. Webdriver.chrome.driver you can copy. Before launching the browser, you have to tell using that key where is your driver. Okay, so there is a class called system. Inside the class, there is a static method called setProperty. System.setProperty. Okay, it will ask for key and value as a string. You can see two arguments. System.setProperty. Key is nothing but the webdriver.chrome.driver. You have to get it from the error message only, or you can remember it. It's going to be constant on webdriver.chrome.driver. For Firefox, it will be something like webdriver.gecko.driver. For Edge, webdriver.edge.driver. You can get it from the error. In the second argument, you have to give the driver detail. Where is my driver detail? That detail you need to give. Let me tell you how to download the driver and configure it. This I'll finish it and I'll tell you. Then you continue it. Let me do one thing. Under the downloads, selenium.dev, under the downloads, you can see, if you scroll down, you can see browsers. Lots of drivers will be there. Which browser we are trying to launch? Chrome, right? I have to click on this documentation, Chrome. Or what you do is just search for Chrome driver in Google. You will be getting the Chrome driver page. You can see lots of drivers. Under downloads, you will be able to see many versions will be there. You have to download it properly based on your Chrome browser. Which Chrome browser you are targeting, which platform you are targeting, you should know. Okay, this will be the site. You have to download and configure the driver. To fix it, download and configure the driver based on browser and platform. Browser version is also from browser version, platform, everything you need to check it right now. Let's understand it. Let's understand the browser version. Check the browser version in your machine. Just go to this options under this help about Chrome. Check the browser version. I hope it will be 99 for everyone. What is the version you have in your machine? Same, right? Yeah, so right now I have to download the Chrome driver 99. You can see I click on 99. I'll ping you the link for you. I'll ping you the link. Directly go to this link, you will get the driver. Now which driver I want to download in this, which platform I'm working on right now. It's Windows, right? So Windows machine. So I have to download this window 32. 32 is only available. If it is 64, you can download it, but 64 is not there. Only when 32 is there. Okay, first you need to download it. Listen for 2 minutes, then you can configure. Download it. Okay, download. I'll keep it in my project. Let me cut it. I'll just keep it inside the software folder. I'll keep it here and then extract it. Extract all you can do, or extract all means extracted happen in the folder. Extract here you do. You need to extract it. That's it. Once you extract it, you can find the Chrome driver.exe. Okay, just extract it and see whether you're getting the Chrome driver.exe file. This Chrome driver.exe you will be getting. I pinged you a link. You can open, use that link to download. Different ways are there. One is copy pasting in the project directory will work. Otherwise, setting up through the set property will work. We have to do it in a proper way. Auto download is also possible. Auto download and set up the configuration is also possible. Okay. Downloader. Okay, now listen here. We can keep it inside the project and then we will give the relative path. That's what we use. For the time being, what you do is you can give it from the root directory. Choose the Chrome driver. Just click on Chrome driver and you will have an option under home. Copy path will be there. In Windows machine, copy path will be there. Choose your Chrome driver properly. Extract it. Choose your Chrome driver. Copy path. Listen everyone. I have to give the path here. Path, file name, extension I need to give. To get it easily, what you can do is just click on Chrome driver, copy path you do. And then go over here, remove the double quotes, and then paste it automatically. Double quotes copy will happen with double quotes only. And in Java, backward slash is having a special meaning. You have to give two backward slash for the directory. Two backward slash you can give. We'll give the relative path. We'll do that later. Right now, when I run this program, it will pick the driver what we have configured and try to launch the Chrome browser. The browser which is getting launched right now will not have any histories or cookies. All will be empty. It is like a private browser. Some text will be there. That is not an issue. If you are able to, if you don't see anything like exception in thread main, not an issue. This is something like it will try to trigger the exe file. Port will be locked. So that port detail and all, it will be given in red color. So it's not an error. So you don't want to worry about it. It will launch the browser right now. Okay, we discussed about classes and object. Now a new Chrome driver, a new object is created for the type Chrome driver. So that is actually holding browser. Okay, like previously we discussed about employee ID, name, salary. Here the object is containing the Chrome browser, right? That browser is pointed by the variable name driver. If I create one more object, one more browser will be launched. Working fine. Good. Yeah. So now the browser is launched. Okay, right now what is going to happen is driver will be pointing to, this is what happening right now. So driver is going to point to some address. If you try to print driver system.out.println driver, it will give some address detail. That address is holding the Chrome browser. Only that browser which is getting launched, not all the browser. Okay. Current Chrome browser detail it will be holding. Now, in case if I want to do any operation in this browser, I need to know this address. That address is pointed by the driver. That's the concept here. So I can do driver dot, okay, driver dot get is a method. Okay, return type is void. So you don't want to store. Argument is string. The URL I need to give it as a string. Driver dot get the URL I can give it as a string. Giving the URL, mention either HTTP or HTTPS. You need to mention that properly. Okay. Let me give google.com driver.get google.com. Either HTTP or HTTPS you can give. Now, if you run the program, it will try to launch the browser and then it will try to navigate to the URL. The get method will take care of it. We don't want to go and see what is happening inside get method. All these things are not required. Just you need to understand what get method can do for us. Okay. Get is the method. Non-static method we are accessing. Got it? So everyone try to launch the browser. So in Java, after understanding classes and object, you need to work on constructor. There is a concept called constructor. If you see here, we are creating an employee object, student object. But while creating an object, just allocates a memory. Whereas here, it is trying to launch the browser itself. While creating an object itself, it is trying to launch the browser. How it is possible? For that, you have to work on the constructor. There is a concept called constructor, which we need to work on. Then if you see go in Google how to launch the browser and all, you can see they are creating an object and store it in the Webdriver. What is the reason why they store it in Webdriver? What is Webdriver? First of all, that we have to learn. Okay, so that is basically an interface concept. Before that, inheritance is required. So those are the things you need to learn on. So whatever we learn it in the OOPS concept, you can parallelly see the example here. So while explaining, you can use this as an example to explain the concept in Java. Okay. Just try to get the title of the page and print it in the console. See, to get the title, yeah, so you can store it initially. Later we can do it in a single line. So driver dot get title, that's the method. And this method you can see it's going to return a string, no argument. Okay, to store that you can declare a string here, string, and this will be the title. Whatever the title we are getting it right now, an actual title. During the runtime we will get the title. system.out.println title. Now this program will try to get the title and print it. Okay. Current URL also you can get it. Basic methods. Google. Okay, now you can see here to get the current URL driver.get current URL of the page. Title is, this will be the title of the page, and this is going to be the URL. Get current URL. After loading, whatever the URL we have, that URL it will return a string. That detail you can store it. String. You can do system.out.println directly driver.get current URL. That will also be printing the detail. Okay, so every time you can see it launches a new browser. Every time it launches a new browser and then doing the operation. The browser will not have any histories or cookies. The Google title URL, current URL. Clear with this? So with the concept what we learned, this is enough. We will try to work on few more Java concepts, then we'll continue with the Selenium. See, for doing the operations and all, we have to do driver.find element, and then locator I need to give. Argument, what argument it's asking for. Find element will try to find the element in the web page for doing the operation. What argument, what data type it's asking for as an argument. Something like by it shows. You can see driver.find element, it asks for by. So what we need to do is we have to understand what is by class, because we did not create by class. Okay, some methods will be giving you the by object. Based on that, we will be doing the operation. Let's understand few things. For example, right now I'll quickly give you an idea about introduction to constructor. We'll see about the constructor. If you see here, when I do Chrome driver, new Chrome driver, it is launching the browser. This statement itself is launching the browser. Line number 13 itself is launching the browser. How line number 13 is launching the browser is what you need to understand. Okay, that is basically through the constructor. There is a concept called constructor. It's a Java concept. Let me put a line. Those Selenium concept here. I'll show you the Java concept 29. There is something called constructor. What constructor is something like a method only. It's a kind of method only. Kind of method only. Constructor name and class name will be same. Constructor name and class name should be same. And it has no return type. You should not give any return type. A constructor name and class name should be same. Now, if few things about constructor you need to know. If we don't create any constructor, always there will be a default constructor. Always there will be a default constructor which helps load the non-static variable default values. Okay, we can override the default constructor by creating our own constructor. We can create our own constructor to override. See, whenever you create an object, If you see, whenever you create an object employee class, let me go for employee class and show you. Whenever I create an object for employee class, I put a breakpoint here and debug it. See, when I create an object for employee class, it loads the non-static variable with default values. Okay, initialize with default values. This part is nothing but initialization. While creating an object initially, I explained you about the left hand side is nothing but declaration. New will allocate a memory. Basically, a new memory will be created. Initialization is what we are planning to discuss. This is what constructor is. When you don't create any constructor, did we create anything called constructor in this class? Did we create anything called constructor in this class?
No.
No, we did not create anything called constructor. Now, if you don't have anything, if you don't create any constructor, basically, a default constructor will be coming into picture. That will help us in loading the default values to all the non-static variable. All will be loaded with default values. You can see 0 null 0.0, 0 null 0.0. That is done through the default constructor. Without your knowledge, a default constructor will be there in your script. Always it will be there. You cannot skip it. Okay. Now we can override the default constructor by creating our own constructor. You can create constructor with argument and create a constructor without argument, constructor with argument. You can create your own constructor with argument, without argument. Okay, let me just give you an introduction to constructor, how to create it. You have to go to the class. Inside the class, you can create anywhere. It is a kind of method. Public. What's the class name? Class name here is employee. This is how a constructor is created. If you notice it properly, that is what we are calling it while creating an object, initialization. This constructor is getting called while creating an object. No return type. You should not even mention void. Okay. This will be called an object creation. Let me do one thing. Let me do system.out.println object created. I'll try to print. Okay. I'm printing. I'm just doing some printing. Now what I'm trying to do is I've created my own constructor. Default constructor will be there. We can override the values, override the default constructor by creating our own constructor. I've created a constructor without argument right now. Now, whenever you create an object, you can see when I create an object here, line number 9, it will call this constructor. If you create a constructor, it will call that constructor only. You can see printing object created. Second object I'm creating. Again, you can see this constructor is getting called. Third object I'm creating, and you can see this constructor is getting called. If I create some 100 times object, 100 times this constructor will be called, because that is what we are referring here. If you don't create anything, default constructor will be called. Understood? Now in this place only, they have created something like browser launch logic. Okay, if I try to write a logic for browser launch here, what happens is while creating an object, it will launch the browser. Got an idea about this constructor? Let me do one thing. I'll give empid equal to 5000. I've given empid equal to 5000 here. Okay. Creating an object. First object I'm creating. Constructor is getting called. After creating a memory, it will be called. This constructor is getting called. What values? I'm changing the empid. So empid of which object will be changed right now? This constructor is called because of which object? While creating the first object only, it is getting called. So empid of that object. Inside that empid, it will be changed to 5000. You can see The default value will be 0. Now that is, you can see when I hover on it, it will be 0. Right now it's 0 and I'm trying to update it to 5000. Okay. In the first object, you can see employee ID will be 5000. This is how we can override the default values. Understood? Creating one more object. In that object also, we are going to override. Right now, the default value of employee ID is 0. The second object, I'm changing it to 5000. You can see we are changing it to 5000. Third object also, I'm changing it to 5000. So all three object employee ID, I'm modifying it to 5000 because that is inside the constructor. Now, after that, I'm overriding it. You can see here. Here I'm giving overriding as 1001, 1002. For third one, not doing anything, so it will be 5000. You can override it, but before overriding, we can write the logic. Logic like auto assigning the employee ID, those things and all, we can do it. Okay, we'll do that in the next class. So just an introduction to constructor. So whichever you feel the prerequisite for the object. Okay, so whatever you feel it as prerequisite for the object. See, for example, Selenium, if I want to navigate to URL, if I want to navigate to this URL, what is required? If you want to navigate to the URL, browser is required, right? So that is going to be a prerequisite. If I access this method, then browser should be prerequisite. So that they have constructed in the constructors, added in the constructor. So while creating an object itself, browser launch will happen. If browser launch is not happening or any error, it will abort the execution at this stage. Here, I want to auto assign the employee ID. That logic and all, I can write it inside the constructor. Okay, whatever you feel it as prerequisite for the object. It's not mandatory. Like all the concept what we are learning, it's not mandatory to be added for all the classes. If it is required, you can add it. Prerequisite for the object can be added inside the constructor. Just got some idea about constructor. We're able to relate this like how browser launch could have been happened. Here, this is launching the browser, right? We're able to relate that. That is a concept. We'll discuss more about the constructor and all. So independently, you should know what is class, what is object, what is constructor. Then inheritance is going to be simple. While you're working with child object, you will be able to see parent memory will be loaded. That is inheritance. And you will be overriding the method from parent to child. That is your method overriding. That's a runtime polymorphism. And then interface you will be working on abstraction, abstract class and interface. That is overriding a method. Concept will be same. So one thing what you need to know is in order to work with inheritance, method overriding, abstract class, interface, for all these things, you should be clear about the object. What happens when you create an object? That is, if that is clear, then it will be easy. And with the whatever we have learned till now, classes and object, with that we will be able to work with Selenium. This code you can work. The entire Selenium automation can be done with the concept what we learn. Okay. Next class we'll parallelly work on few OOPS concepts and cover with the Selenium also. For today's session, if you have any doubts, let me know. What you can do is you try to configure this to a new GitHub. This project, the Selenium concept, it should be configured with the new GitHub. Configure the Selenium concept. Each project you have to connect with GitHub. Right now, Java concept is the only project is connected to GitHub. If you create any other project, for that also you have to do the same thing. You have to right click on it, share project, create a local repository, you have to commit, and then you have to configure with a new repository. Git configuration, I told you, right? That you need to repeat it for the new project. For this project also you need to do Selenium concept. That you try to watch the last class video and try to configure it and push it to GitHub and keep it.
Balaji, is it possible to move a project from one repository to another?
Project from, or come again? How do you want it?
I want to move one project from one repository to another repository.
Like this project, this project you want to move to some other repository?
Yes.
Yeah, actually what happened in your case, I guess, is it created the local repository in the workspace level, right? How did you create a repository, like a local repository in the last class? You share me the screen, I'll fix it and show you. A local repository got created in two different levels, in the parent level, I guess. Go to the Eclipse, just go to Eclipse. Right click on Java concept. And then go to properties. At the end, it will be there. Click on the arrow mark in the bottom. Yeah, click on it. Properties. Go to resource in the left hand side. Resource in the left hand side, resource, first option. Yeah. Click on the directory. Icon is there, no? Location. In the same line, you can see the icon. You click on it. Now you can see .git got created in the workspace level. That is why you are facing that issue. You do one thing, just rename that folder. .git, you rename it. Underscore old or anything you can use. That is not required anymore. .git underscore old, okay. Underscore old. Click on okay. Now right click on the project in your Eclipse. Java concept, you can right click. Go to team, a team option. Click on disconnect. Now right click on Java concept. Go to team, share project. Now wait, use or create a repository in parent folder. Checkbox, you click on it. Now you see, just maximize it. Yeah, it's maximum. Just do mouse over on it. Choose workspace dot. Go to that folder and go to E drives and get into that folder. This is the one, right? Java Selenium workspace. Go to that. Go to Eclipse. Click on close. Cancel it. Right click on the project and show me the location. Right click on this project and go to properties resource.
I think I have both the projects are saved on different locations.
Yeah, just right click on it and go to, that is fine. It should be in different location. Go to properties. Yeah, so it is in C drive. You have created everything in Git folder, right? The project is in Git folder, correct?
Yes.
Okay, fine. You can right click on it and then go to team and share. This is fine. You can cancel this. We'll close this. What we'll try to connect to new repository. Right click on it and then go to team, share project, use or create a repository. Checkbox, you can do that. Now this is the location. Just click on it. Now create repository you do. That's fine. You can click on create repository button is there in the left. Okay, now we are creating a repository, local repository in Java concepts folder. Click on finish. Now you can right click on it, do commit and push. Okay. Add it in the stage all you do. Commit. Now right click on the project, try to do push, create one repository. You need to create while doing a push. One second. You copy the repository, go to the GitHub and create one new repository. You can create a new one, give it as Java concept. Already it should be there. Java concept 1 you can do. Yeah, create. Yeah, copy the URL. Correct only. Java concept. Go into Java concept 1. Copy this URL and go to Eclipse. Yeah, paste it in URI. Yeah, delete that and paste it. Yeah, paste it. Click on next, next and finish. Now this got connected to that repository. You just go to that repository and refresh it and see. You can directly refresh the page actually. Go inside the Tennessee folder. Okay, all the packages. Now what you need to do is you can go to the other repository, like one more application you wanted to connect, right? HRM. Just copy the URL, go inside that, copy the URL and go to Eclipse, right click on it, team, share project, disconnect it and share project. While doing share project, okay, we have to create a local repository that should be pointing to the project directory. Use or create local repository you do. Now it will check it in the project home directory. If you see this directory, it is HRM database management. Inside that only you need to create. Got it? Yeah, now you can do commit and push. While doing a push, you can keep the new repository details. It got pasted already. Okay, so you'll have
Yeah.
two different
Thanks.
local repository and two two different remote repository. For each project, we'll be connecting. See, right now, what will happen is when you create the local repository, just go to that folder, go to the folder, like the one which you already opened. Yeah, go inside this, go inside Git. Now, inside Git, you have two projects, right? So, HRM and then Java concept. Now, go inside Java concept. For Java concept, this should be the local repository. Just go above, just go to the Git folder outside this. Go inside HRM. For this should be the local repository. Okay. Now,
Okay, got it.
previously what happened is in the Git folder, local repository got connected. In the Java Selenium workspace Git folder, just go to Git folder. Here it got connected. So what happened is inside that local repository, it was connecting all these folders. If you have any other, like if you created, go to Java Selenium workspace. For example, if you create a local repository here, then all the projects will be added to that local repository only. Okay, that's why we maintain in the project level. For
Okay,
math
okay.
article project, inside math article project, we will create local repository. Okay.
Got it.
Okay. Okay, then we'll work on the pending topics tomorrow, like next class. I'll share the assignments.
Balaji, one more thing. My browser is not opening after running that
Go to
program.
Eclipse. Yeah, go to Eclipse. Run the program. Yeah, you could have, you can inform me during the session itself, like if it is not working. You don't want to wait until then. Going further. It shows scroll up and see the error. Go to the Chrome driver directory where you keep the Chrome driver. Double click on it. See, it is a old Chrome driver 2.33. Close it. Delete it. Open Chrome driver. Sorry, Chrome browser. Check your version of Chrome browser. Just check the Chrome browser version. Under help, you will have it about Chrome. Yeah. See, 99 is the version. Now, in this tab, you search for Chrome driver. Just search for Chrome driver here. In the Google, you search for Chrome driver. No, just go to Chrome and search for Chrome driver. We need to download it. Google search you do. Chrome driver, Google search. Chrome driver, you can search. Driver. Okay. Yeah. Now click on this. Now in this, you have to download the version 99. Scroll down and see. You can see version 99 will be there. Chrome driver 99. Click on it. Now in this Win32, you need to download it. And then after downloading, extract it and keep it inside E drives and get folder. Right click on it. Extract all you do and choose the folder. Yeah, paste. That's fine. Just you can select folder, extract. Now run the script, Eclipse. Go to it will be 99 right now. You can give more info. Run it now. From where did you? Yeah, it's launching the browser. Then you can do driver dot get for navigating to the URL. It just launches the browser right now.
Okay.
Okay. Where did you get that older version?
It's already installed, I think.
Yeah, that was the older version of driver. If browser got updated to 100, then we have to download the Chrome driver 100.
Okay, okay, got it.
Okay. So just I gave you an introduction. It's fine. We will work on it in the next class.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome. So for today's session, we'll connect for the next class day after tomorrow. I'll just upload the assignment details for today's session. You can check on it by tomorrow morning. Bye everyone.
Balaji, Monday's video also not uploaded.
Where are you getting it? In the drive link?
No, on YouTube.
Okay. I'll just message my mail ID. Okay. I'll update the team. If you're not getting it by tomorrow, you can just drop me. Okay. I just gave the mail ID in the chat window. I'll update the team also.
Okay.
Okay. See you everyone.